Welcome to the Honeyed Leaf, where every cup of tea comes with a story. I'm so glad you're here. If you enjoy gentle mysteries that help you sleep, please subscribe so you never miss a visit to Willowbrook. Tonight, we're returning to the peaceful village, where Clara Whitmore is about to find herself drawn into another gentle mystery. Before we begin, find a comfortable position, close your eyes if you'd like, and let yourself relax. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. Just let the story carry you peacefully towards sleep. Now, let's visit Willowbrook together. Chapter 1. The Wishing Well Appears. New Year's Day dawned bright and cold in Willowbrook. Clara had stayed up until midnight celebrating with friends at the village hall, then walked home through quiet streets, feeling hopeful about the year ahead. She loved the fresh start feeling of January 1st, the sense of possibility and renewal that came with a new year. On January the 2nd, Clara walked to the Honeyed Leaf early to prepare for the day. As she passed the village green, she stopped in surprise. Something new had appeared overnight. In the centre of the green stood a beautiful stone wishing well, traditional in style with a wooden bucket on a rope and a peaked roof protecting it from weather. It looked old, as if it had always been there, but Clara was certain it hadn't existed yesterday. She approached for a closer look. The stonework was weathered but solid. The wood was aged but sturdy. A small brass plaque on the side read, "Make a wish, drop a coin, believe in new beginnings. Happy New Year, Willowbrook." Clara looked around. The green was empty at this early hour. Who had installed a wishing well overnight, and why? It must have taken significant effort. The well was substantial, not something that could be moved easily. She peered into the well. It wasn't actually a functioning well, just a decorative structure with a collection box at the bottom. Several coins already glinted in the box. Someone had made wishes already, even at this early hour. Clara found a coin in her pocket and dropped it in, making a silent wish for a good year ahead. The coin clinked satisfyingly. Then she continued to the Honeyed Leaf, puzzled but charmed by this mysterious addition to the village. By mid-morning, everyone was talking about the wishing well. Customers streamed into the shop sharing theories. Did the village council install it? Maybe it's an art installation. Could it be connected to the church? But no one seemed to know for certain. Reverend Peters stopped by and confirmed the church wasn't involved. Mrs. Pembroke called the village council and reported back. They didn't authorise it. They're as confused as everyone else. They're trying to determine if it needs planning permission or if they should have it removed. Oh, don't remove it, several customers protested. It's lovely. And harmless, Emma added. Just a bit of New Year whimsy. By afternoon, dozens of people had visited the well and made wishes. Children especially loved it, carefully selecting coins and making elaborate wishes before dropping them in. Parents took photos. Elderly residents smiled at the tradition being revived. Apparently, Willowbrook had once had a wishing well decades ago, long since removed. That evening, Clara walked past the well again. In the fading light, it looked almost magical, the peaked roof casting shadows, the stones catching the last rays of sun. Several people stood around it making wishes. Clara overheard a young woman saying, "I wish I could find a job I actually enjoy." An elderly man wished for his garden to flourish in the coming spring. A teenager wished for confidence to try out for the school play. Simple wishes, hopeful wishes, the kind people make when they want to believe in possibilities. Clara found it touching. Whoever had installed this well had given the village a gift, a tangible way to express hopes and dreams at the start of a new year. On January 3rd, something strange happened. The young woman Clara had overheard wishing for a better job, Jenny Carter, who worked unhappily at a call centre, came into the Honeyed Leaf excited. "You'll never believe this. I got a call this morning. That bookshop position I applied for months ago, they want to interview me." "That's wonderful," Clara said. "I'd forgotten I even applied. It was back in November and I never heard anything. But apparently their first choice didn't work out and they're reconsidering previous applicants. The interview is tomorrow. I can't believe the timing. Right after I wished for a better job at that well." "That's quite a coincidence," Clara agreed. But she didn't think much of it. Coincidences happened. Later that day, old Tom Fletcher came in grinning. "Clara, the oddest thing. Remember those seeds I ordered before Christmas? The specialty vegetable seeds for my spring garden. They arrived this morning. I'd given up on them, thought the company had gone out of business. But they sent them with a note apologising for the delay. Said they'd been reorganising their warehouse and found unfulfilled orders. Sent mine with extra seeds as an apology. It's like my wish at that well yesterday came true. Clara remembered Tom had been at the well the previous evening. She'd seen him drop a coin in. 2 wishes coming true in one day. Still probably coincidence. But then Eleanor Hartwell stopped by in the afternoon. The strangest thing happened. You know how I've been trying to get that historical document from the county archives? I've been requesting it for 6 months. This morning they called. They found it. It'll be delivered next week. Did you make a wish at the well? Clara asked, already suspecting the answer. I did yesterday evening. Wished for progress on my research. And now this. It's quite remarkable timing. 3 wishes, 3 results. Clara was beginning to think this wasn't coincidence. But how could wishes actually be coming true? That was impossible. Unless someone was making them come true. Someone who knew what people had wished for and was working to grant those wishes. But how would they know? People wished silently. Unless the wishes weren't silent. Clara went to the wishing well that evening. She examined it more carefully, looking for cameras or recording devices. Nothing obvious, but when she looked at the plaque again, she noticed something. Below, "Make a wish," in smaller letters, it said, "Write your wish on the provided paper if you'd like to share it." She looked around and spotted a small wooden box attached to the side of the well she hadn't noticed before. Inside were slips of paper and pencils. Some people must be writing wishes instead of just thinking them, which meant someone could read those wishes, and if someone could read them, someone could work to grant them. Clara opened the collection box at the bottom, the one that should just contain coins. Inside were coins, yes, but also folded slips of paper, wishes written down. Clara took several out and read them. "I wish my daughter would call me. She's been distant lately. I wish I could afford guitar lessons for my son. I wish I had the courage to submit my artwork somewhere." Simple, achievable wishes, the kind that could be granted by a thoughtful person with resources and connections. Clara carefully folded the wishes and returned them. So someone was reading wishes and granting them. But who? And how were they managing it? She started investigating. Over the next few days, more wishes came true. The woman who wanted guitar lessons for her son received an anonymous scholarship. The artist who wanted courage received an invitation to submit work to a local gallery. The person whose daughter had been distant received a surprise visit. Apparently the daughter had been feeling guilty about not calling and decided to reach out. Each person was amazed by the timing. Many attributed it to the well's magic, but Clara knew better. Someone was reading wishes and actively working to grant them. Someone organised, resourceful, and very kind. By January 8th, over 20 wishes had reportedly come true. The village was buzzing with stories. People who'd made wishes were seeing surprising positive developments. Those who hadn't yet wished were hurrying to the well to make their own. The well had become the most popular spot in Willowbrook. Clara decided to investigate more systematically. She made a list of people whose wishes had come true and looked for patterns. Were they all connected to one person, one family, one organisation? She couldn't find an obvious link. The wish granters seemed to have access to diverse resources and connections. That suggested multiple people working together. On January 10th, Clara staked out the wishing well. She positioned herself in the honeyed leaf with a clear view of the green. She watched throughout the day as people visited the well, made wishes, dropped coins. Around 5 o'clock, as darkness fell, she saw someone approach the well differently. Not to make a wish, but to check it. A figure in a hooded coat knelt by the collection box. Clara watched as they opened it and removed something, the wish papers, presumably. They looked around furtively, then walked quickly toward the residential area. Clara grabbed her coat and followed at a distance. The figure moved through several streets, then entered a cottage on Elm Street, number 14. Clara noted the address. She'd come back tomorrow to see who lived there. but she continued watching. 15 minutes later, the figure emerged again and walked to a different house, this time on Cherry Lane. They went inside briefly, then came out and went to a third location. They seemed to be visiting multiple houses quickly, purposefully. Clara couldn't follow without being obvious, so she returned to the honeyed leaf and noted what she'd seen. Someone was collecting wishes from the well, then visiting multiple houses, coordinating, organising, distributing wishes to different people who would work on granting them. That would explain how diverse wishes were being granted, different people handling different types. The next morning, Clara asked Mrs. Pembroke about number 14 Elm Street. "That's the Foster house, Richard and Patricia Foster. He's a retired lawyer, she was a school administrator, lovely couple, very active in community affairs. Why do you ask?" Clara explained what she'd seen. "I think they might be involved in granting the wishes. But they couldn't be doing it alone. I saw whoever collected the wishes visiting multiple houses afterward. I think there's a group of people working together." Mrs. Pembroke's eyes lit up. "A secret wish-granting committee? That's rather wonderful. Should we try to identify them?" "I think we should, but discreetly. I don't want to interfere with what they're doing." Over the next few days, Clara and Mrs. Pembroke quietly investigated. They noted who had recently had wishes come true and tried to trace back how those wishes were granted. The guitar scholarship came from a music teacher, Mrs. Wilson, who'd taught for years and had connections to a scholarship fund. The gallery invitation came from Emma at the bookshop, who knew the gallery owner, the daughter who called her distant mother. That took more digging. Eventually they learned the daughter had received a thoughtful letter from Mrs. Chen at the grocery, who'd noticed the mother seemed lonely and gently suggested reconnection. Each granted wish involved a different person. Different skills, different connections, different resources. All coordinated somehow. On January 15th, Clara decided to set a small test. She wrote a wish on paper, something specific and unusual that would be hard to grant randomly. "I wish for a first edition of my grandmother's favourite book, The Secret Garden." She specified the first edition detail deliberately. That wasn't something easily obtained. If this wish was granted, it would prove someone was actively working on these. She dropped the wish in the well and waited. 2 days later, a package arrived at the honeyed leaf. No return address. Inside was a first edition of The Secret Garden, dated 1911, in beautiful condition. A note said, "Your wish is granted. With warm regards, The Well." Clara was amazed. Someone had sourced a rare book within 48 hours. That took resources and determination. She showed Mrs. Pembroke. "This proves it. Someone is reading wishes and actively working to grant them. Someone with impressive resources and connections. We need to figure out who." They intensified their investigation. Mrs. Pembroke started casually asking people if they'd helped grant wishes recently. She was subtle, just mentioning that she'd heard wishes were coming true and wondering how. Several people admitted to helping. Mrs. Wilson confirmed she'd arranged the guitar scholarship. Emma acknowledged sending the gallery invitation. Mr. Davies, the church caretaker, admitted to fixing a broken fence for someone who'd wished for help with home repairs. Each person said they'd been asked to help by someone who'd learned about a wish and wanted to grant it. But none of them knew who was coordinating the overall effort. They'd each received individual requests, a phone call, a note, a conversation, asking if they could help with a specific wish. They'd agreed, thinking it was a lovely idea. But they didn't know the bigger picture. Someone was definitely orchestrating this. Someone who knew the whole village well enough to match wishes with people who could grant them. On January 20th, Clara decided to be more direct. She visited 14 Elm Street and knocked. Patricia Foster answered, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Hello, dear. Clara, isn't it? From the honeyed leaf. Come in." Clara entered the cosy cottage. "I'm here about the wishing well." Chapter 2. Investigating the network. Patricia's expression didn't change. "The wishing well? Lovely addition to the green, isn't it? The children especially seem to enjoy it." "I know someone is granting wishes," Clara said gently. "I know people are reading the written wishes and working to make them come true. I saw someone collecting wishes from the well and visiting multiple houses, including this one." Patricia studied Clara for a long moment. Then she smiled. "You're very observant and persistent. Would you like tea?" "I'm not here to stop anything. I think what's being done is beautiful. I'm just curious about how it works and who's involved." Patricia led Clara to the kitchen and put the kettle on. "How much have you figured out?" "I know it's not one person. It's multiple people working together. Different people grant different wishes based on their skills and connections. Someone is coordinating it all, matching wishes to the right people. And I think you might be part of that coordination." Patricia smiled. "You're quite clever. Yes, I'm involved, but I'm not the only coordinator. There are several of us. We call ourselves the New Year's Network. We wanted to do something special for Willowbrook, something that would bring hope and positivity at the start of the year. The wishing well was our way of gathering people's hopes, and granting wishes is our way of showing that community can make good things happen." "How many people are involved?" Clara asked. "In coordination, 5 of us. In actual wish granting, nearly 30. We've recruited people throughout the village based on their skills and resources. We don't tell them about the full network, just ask them to help with specific wishes that match what they can do. That way it feels personal, not bureaucratic. So people think they're doing individual kindnesses, not part of an organised programme." "Exactly. And they are doing individual kindnesses. We're just facilitating the connection between wish and wish granter. It's more meaningful when help feels spontaneous rather than systematic." Clara understood the wisdom in this. "Who are the other coordinators?" Patricia hesitated. "I shouldn't really say. We agreed to stay anonymous. Let the magic of the well be the story, not the mechanics of how it works. But Clara, you've figured so much out already. If I tell you, will you keep our secret? Let us continue this work without public attention." "Of course. I just want to understand, and perhaps help if you'd like that." Patricia considered, then nodded. "All right. The coordinators are myself, Dr. Matthews, Eleanor Hartwell, Emma from the bookshop, and Reverend Peters. We planned this back in November. We each bring different connections and perspectives. I know people from my years as school administrator. Dr. Matthews knows families through his medical practice. Eleanor knows everyone through historical society work. Emma knows the artistic and literary community. Reverend Peters knows people through church. Between us, we know virtually everyone in Willowbrook and understand their capabilities. When we read a wish, we can usually identify someone who could help grant it." "And the wishing well itself? How did you install it overnight without anyone noticing?" "We didn't do it overnight. We did it over several nights in late December when people were focused on Christmas. We built it in sections. Richard built it in his workshop, piece by piece. On New Year's Eve, while everyone was at the village hall celebration, we assembled it quickly on the green. It took about 2 hours with all 5 coordinator families helping." "You did this remarkably secretly," Clara said admiringly. "We're all quite old," Patricia said with a smile. "People underestimate what elderly people can accomplish when we're motivated and organised. Now, Clara, I've been honest with you. What are your intentions? Will you expose us, or will you keep our secret?" "I'll keep it. I think what you're doing is wonderful, but I'd like to help if you'll let me. The honeyed leaf is central to the village. I hear things, know people's situations. I could help identify wishes that need granting or people who could help grant them." Patricia's face brightened. "We'd welcome your help. Let me discuss it with the others. Can you meet us tomorrow evening?" The next evening, Clara met the 5 coordinators at Patricia's house. They gathered in her living room. Patricia and Richard Foster, Dr. Matthews, Eleanor Hartwell, Emma Sullivan, and Reverend Peters. They looked at Clara with a mixture of caution and curiosity. "Patricia says you've discovered our operation," Dr. Matthews said, "and that you want to help rather than expose us." "That's right. I think what you're doing is remarkable. But I'm curious, why the secrecy? Why not just organise a formal community support programme?" "Because formal programmes become transactional," Eleanor explained. "Forms to fill out, meetings to attend, committees to satisfy. We wanted something magical, something that felt like wishes coming true, not charity being distributed. If people knew we were behind it, it would lose that magic. It would become, oh, the committee helped me instead of my wish came true. The wonder matters, The belief in possibility matters. That only works if the mechanism stays hidden. I understand, Clara said. So how can I help while maintaining that mystery? They explained the system. Each coordinator checked the well twice a day, once in early morning, once in evening. They collected new wishes and brought them to that evening's coordination meeting, held at rotating houses. The coordinators read wishes together, discussed what was feasible, and assigned each wish to someone they thought could help. They then contacted that person with a request. We frame it as a personal favour, Emma explained. We might say, I heard someone in the village needs help with X. You're good at X. Would you be willing to help? We don't mention the well or the wish unless necessary. We make it feel like natural community support, which it is. We're just organising it intentionally. Clara's role would be intelligence gathering. Your neutral territory, Reverend Peter said. Everyone comes to the honeyed leaf. People talk freely there. You can hear about needs before they become wishes. You can identify people with resources who don't realise they could help. You'd be our early warning system and resource directory. Clara agreed enthusiastically. She'd attend coordination meetings. She'd share information about villagers' situations. She'd help match wishes to wish granters. But she'd maintain secrecy, absolutely. One question, though, Clara said. How long do you plan to continue this? Through January, Patricia said. The well appeared on New Year's Day. It'll disappear on February 1st. 1 month of wishes, then back to normal. Won't people be disappointed when it's gone? Perhaps, but we'll have demonstrated something important, that community support is possible, that people can help each other. We hope that continues even after the well is gone. The well is just a symbol. The real magic is neighbours helping neighbours. That can last forever. And the coins people drop in? Clara asked. We're collecting them. At the end, we'll donate the money to the village youth programmes. The coins from Wishes funding opportunities for children. It seemed fitting. Clara left that evening feeling inspired. She was now part of the New Year's network, part of something beautiful and secret and meaningful. For the rest of January, she'd help make wishes come true. Over the following days, Clara threw herself into the work. She listened carefully to conversations at the Honeyed Leaf. When Mrs. Singh mentioned her daughter needed interview clothes but couldn't afford them, Clara shared that at the evening meeting. When young Danny Morrison talked about wanting to learn coding but having no computer, Clara noted it. When Lily mentioned struggling with Midnight Baker's bookkeeping, Clara filed that away. At coordination meetings, she'd share her intelligence. Mrs. Singh's daughter needs interview clothes, size 10. She has an important interview next week. The coordinators would discuss. Someone would remember that Mrs. Chen had mentioned her daughter had left behind professional clothes when she moved abroad. A connection would be made. Mrs. Chen would receive a request to help. The wish would be granted. The system was elegant and effective. Within days of Clara joining, the coordination improved noticeably. More wishes were being granted, more quickly, more precisely. Clara's knowledge of villagers' situations and resources made matching easier. And her central location at the Honeyed Leaf meant she could facilitate connections naturally. She'd mentioned to Mrs. Chen, "Have you heard Mrs. Singh's daughter has a big interview?" That planted a seed. When Mrs. Chen was contacted about helping, it seemed natural rather than random. The network was becoming more sophisticated. By January 25th, over 60 wishes had been granted. The village was buzzing with stories of unexpected help, surprising opportunities, problems mysteriously solved. People attributed it to the wishing well's magic. Some even said the well must be enchanted. Clara and the coordinators were amused by the supernatural theories, but they maintained absolute secrecy. No one outside the core 6 knew about the network. The 30-plus people who'd helped grant wishes thought they'd each done individual kindnesses. Only the coordinators knew about the organised system making it all work. On January 28th, 4 days before the well's planned disappearance, Clara raised a concern at the coordination meeting. People love the well. They're making wishes, seeing results, feeling hopeful. When it disappears, they'll be disappointed, confused, maybe even sad. Should we prepare them somehow? The coordinators discussed this. We could leave a final message. Emma suggested. Something thanking people for believing in wishes and encouraging them to continue helping each other. They drafted a message together. It would be attached to the well on the final day. A brass plaque reading, "The well has served its purpose. Wishes came true not through magic, but through community. Continue helping each other. Continue making wishes come true for your neighbours. The real magic was always you. Thank you for believing." "That's perfect," Eleanor said. "It gives credit to the community without revealing our specific involvement. It makes the point that the helping should continue even without the well." On January 30th, 2 days before the well's planned removal, something unexpected happened. Young Maisie Fletcher, Tom's granddaughter visiting from London, made a wish. She wrote it carefully on paper. "I wish my parents could buy the cottage they love. They've been saving for years but can't quite afford it." That evening, the coordinators read her wish. They looked at each other with concern. "This is beyond what we can grant," Dr. Matthews said. "We're talking about thousands of pounds. A house deposit. That's not something we can arrange." Chapter 3. The Impossible Wish. "Maybe we can't grant this one," Patricia said. "We've granted 60+ wishes, but we've always known there would be limits. We can arrange scholarships, facilitate connections, provide modest financial help, but we can't fund a house purchase." "But Maisie is 8 years old," Eleanor said. "She believes her wish will come true. She'll be heartbroken if nothing happens." "We could explain that some wishes are bigger than the well can handle," Reverend Peters suggested. "That would disappoint her, but it's better than false hope." Clara had an idea. "What if we can't grant the full wish, but we could help move it closer? Even if we can't provide the deposit, could we help the Fletchers save faster, reduce their expenses somehow, create opportunities for extra income?" The coordinators considered this. "Tom mentioned his son needs £2,000 more for the deposit," Dr. Matthews recalled. "They've been saving for 3 years. The cottage they want is perfect for their family. More space, better location, but they're just short of the deposit amount." £2,000, Patricia mused. "That's still substantial, but more manageable than the full deposit. Could we find ways to help them earn or save that amount?" They brainstormed. Tom's son Mark was a carpenter. Could they find him extra work? Yes, several villagers needed carpentry done and could be encouraged to hire Mark. His wife Julia did freelance graphic design. Could they find her more clients? Emma knew several businesses needing design work. She could make referrals. The Fletchers had expenses that might be reduced. Dr. Matthews knew they paid high prescription costs for Julia's mother who lived with them. He could explore getting her onto a different prescription scheme with lower costs. Mrs. Pembroke knew of a childcare swap programme that could save them money. Piece by piece they assembled a plan. "It's not granting the wish directly," Clara said, "but it's creating conditions where the wish could come true. If we help Mark get extra work, help Julia get more clients, reduce their expenses, they might reach their savings goal faster." "Let's try it," Reverend Peters said. "Even if we can't make it happen immediately, we can help." Over the next 2 days, January 31st and February 1st, the coordinators worked intensively. They contacted villagers who needed carpentry and suggested hiring Mark Fletcher. They connected Julia with businesses needing design work. They helped Julia's mother access better prescription pricing. They facilitated childcare arrangements that saved money, all framed as natural community connections. By February 1st, the well's final day, Mark and Julia had secured several new work opportunities and reduced monthly expenses. They were thrilled but puzzled by the sudden good fortune. "Everything is coming together all at once," Mark told his father Tom. "Like the universe suddenly decided to help us." Tom, who didn't know about the network, was equally amazed. That evening, the coordinators calculated. The new work and reduced expenses would save the Fletchers about £1,500 over the next 3 months. Significant, but still 500 short of the 2,000 they needed. "We got close," Patricia said. "Closer than I expected, but we couldn't quite reach the full wish." "Perhaps that's okay," Eleanor said. "We tried. We helped significantly. Sometimes wishes require more than community can provide." But Clara wasn't satisfied. "What if we did something direct? The 6 of us, personally. We each contribute £100, 600 total. Combined with the 1,500 from the other help, that would exceed the 2,000 they need. The coordinators looked at each other. They'd been careful not to use personal money, keeping the network purely about connecting resources and people. But for a child's wish, for a family who'd worked so hard. "I'm in," Emma said immediately. "Me too," Dr. Matthews agreed. One by one, the others nodded. They'd each contribute £100 anonymously. But how to give it without revealing themselves? They couldn't just hand Mark and Julia £600. That would raise questions. "The coin collection," Reverend Peters said suddenly. "We've collected about £300 in coins from the well. We were planning to donate it to youth programmes. What if we give it to the Fletchers instead, plus 300 more from us? We tell them it's from the well, from wishes people made, a final gift from the New Year wishes. That way it's anonymous and fits the well's purpose." "Perfect," Patricia agreed. On February 1st, the well's final day, they prepared everything. They attached the brass plaque they'd made, thanking the community and encouraging continued helping. They placed a final note in the collection box, a sealed envelope addressed to the Fletcher family. Inside was £600 in cash and a letter. "Dear Fletcher family, your daughter Maisie made a wish at our well. She wished you could buy your dream cottage. While the well cannot grant such a large wish alone, the community can help. Use this money, contributed from wishes and kind hearts, toward your house deposit. May your family find happiness in your new home. With warm regards, the well." That night, while the village slept, the coordinators dismantled the well. They worked quietly, removing it in sections, loading pieces into a van. By morning, the green was empty again, as if the well had never existed. Only the grass showed slight impressions where the base had stood. As the sun rose on February 2nd, villagers discovered the well gone. There was widespread disappointment and confusion. Where had it gone? Why? Then people noticed the brass plaque left behind, mounted on a simple post where the well had stood. They read the message thanking them for believing in wishes and encouraging continued community support. Some people cried, others smiled. Everyone understood. The well had been a catalyst. The real magic was what they'd do next. That afternoon, Tom Fletcher came to the honeyed leaf looking emotional. "Clara, the strangest thing. This morning, we found an envelope at the well site before it was completely cleared. Inside was money and a letter about my granddaughter Maisie's wish. £600 to help my son and daughter-in-law buy their cottage." "That's wonderful," Clara said, working to keep her expression neutral. "Who sent it?" "The letter said it was from the well, from collected wishes. But Clara, someone organised this. Someone knew about Maisie's wish and gathered money to help. Do you know anything about it?" Clara chose her words carefully. "I know the well inspired a lot of community kindness. Maybe people contributed without wanting recognition. It's extraordinary. Combined with some recent good fortune Mark and Julia have had with work, they now have enough for the deposit. They're buying the cottage. Maisie's wish is coming true." He wiped his eyes. "I don't know who to thank, so I'm thanking everyone. And I'm thanking the well, even though it's gone. It gave my family hope and a home." Over the following days, villagers talked constantly about the well's disappearance and the final message. Many people pledged to continue helping neighbours. Spontaneous kindnesses increased. People who'd received help during January paid it forward, helping others. The coordinators watched with satisfaction. Their goal, demonstrating that community support was possible and inspiring it to continue, was working. Chapter 4. Aftermath and Patterns. In mid-February, Clara noticed something interesting. People were still making wishes. Not at the green, where the well no longer stood, but informally. At the honeyed leaf, at the pub, at the bookshop. People would mention hopes or needs in conversation, not really expecting help, just expressing wishes. And other people would listen and sometimes find ways to help. Mrs. Singh, whose daughter had received interview clothes and gotten the job, overheard someone mention needing business attire. She immediately offered some of the clothes that had been passed to her daughter but didn't fit. The gift kept circulating. Mrs. Wilson, who'd arranged the guitar scholarship, started teaching free beginner lessons one Saturday per month. Emma began hosting a monthly community skills exchange at the bookshop, people teaching each other skills for free: carpentry for graphic design, gardening for computer help, baking for language lessons. The spirit of the well continued without the physical structure. The coordinators were pleased. "We started something," Eleanor said at a meeting in late February. "The well was just the spark. The community has caught fire with generosity." "Should we do it again next year?" Emma asked. "Another well for next New Year?" They debated this. "I think once was enough for the well specifically," Patricia said. "If we repeat it, it becomes expected rather than magical. But we could continue the network, keep coordinating help behind the scenes, just without the theatrical element of a wishing well." The others agreed. The New Year's network would continue year-round, quietly matching needs with resources, facilitating community support. They'd meet monthly to coordinate rather than daily. They'd keep it subtle, spontaneous seeming rather than systematic. Clara would remain their intelligence gatherer, hearing needs and identifying helpers at the honeyed leaf. In March, something unexpected happened. A journalist from a national newspaper contacted Reverend Peters. "I heard about your village's mysterious wishing well, wishes coming true, then the well disappearing. It sounds like a fascinating story. I'd love to write about it." The coordinators held an emergency meeting. "We can't control this," Dr. Matthews said. "If she investigates properly, she might uncover the network." "Should we tell her the truth?" Emma wondered. "Explain what we did and why. That might make a better story than mysterious magic." "But it would expose us," Eleanor said. "People would know we were behind it. That changes the dynamic. People might feel manipulated or patronised." They decided to let Reverend Peters give an interview that was truthful but vague. He could explain that the well was installed by community members who wanted to inspire hope and generosity. That wishes came true through community support rather than magic. But he wouldn't name specific coordinators or explain the detailed system. The journalist wrote a story titled "The Village Where Wishes Come True Through Community Kindness." It was published in early April and went viral online. Willowbrook became famous as an example of community support done right. Other villages contacted them asking how to replicate it. The coordinators were amused and slightly overwhelmed. They hadn't expected national attention. Patricia spoke to several villages, offering general advice without revealing specific network mechanics. "Create opportunities for people to express needs and for others to help," she'd say. "Make helping feel natural and spontaneous rather than bureaucratic. Celebrate generosity." That's all we did. By May, the attention had mostly faded. Willowbrook returned to its normal rhythms, but changed rhythms. People continued helping each other more actively than before January. The skills exchange continued monthly. The guitar lessons continued. Informal assistance networks had formed, young parents helping each other with childcare, retirees with specific skills offering to teach them, people with gardens sharing produce, small kindnesses multiplying. The network coordinators barely needed to facilitate anymore. The community had internalised the lesson. In June, the Fletcher family moved into their cottage. They held a housewarming party and invited the whole village. Maisie, now 9 years old, gave a little speech. "I made a wish at the well. I wished my parents could buy this cottage, and my wish came true. I know it wasn't magic. It was people helping. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for making wishes come true." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Tom hugged his granddaughter. Mark and Julia looked around at their neighbours with deep gratitude. At the party, Clara stood with the other coordinators. They didn't reveal themselves, but they shared satisfied glances. This moment of family happiness, community connection, child's faith in goodness validated. This was why they'd done it. Not for recognition, but for this. In July, Mrs. Pembroke had an idea. What if we made the network semi-public, not revealing our specific involvement or methods, but acknowledging that a group exists to coordinate community support? We could call it the Willowbrook Mutual Aid Network. People could submit needs or offer help. We'd facilitate connections. It would formalise what's happening informally already. The coordinators discussed this thoroughly. There were pros and cons, Formalisation might make helping more accessible but less magical, more efficient but more bureaucratic. They decided to try a compromise. They'd create a simple suggestion system, a notebook at the Honeyed Leaf, the library, and the church where people could write needs or offers. The network would check these regularly and facilitate connections, but they'd maintain some mystery. People wouldn't know exactly who was coordinating or how decisions were made, just that community support was available and facilitated somehow. The system launched in August and worked beautifully. People wrote simple notes. "I need help moving furniture Saturday. I can offer piano lessons." Looking for someone to practice French conversation with. The coordinators would see these, identify connections, and facilitate them discreetly. Within weeks, dozens of connections had been made. In September, Clara reflected on the 8 months since New Year's Day. The Wishing Well's appearance had transformed Willowbrook in ways none of them had anticipated. What started as a 1-month project had evolved into a permanent shift in how the community functioned. People helped each other more readily, asked for help more comfortably, believed in each other's generosity more deeply. The coordinators met monthly now, reviewing the suggestion notebooks and facilitating complex connections. Simple connections, helping with moving, offering lessons, people handled themselves. But complex needs requiring multiple helpers or resources, the network still coordinated quietly. In October, the village held a harvest festival. During the celebration, someone suggested creating a permanent memorial to the Wishing Well. It was such a special thing. Even though it only lasted a month, it changed Willowbrook. We should remember it somehow. People debated ideas. A plaque, a sculpture, a garden. Eventually they decided on a memorial bench on the green, positioned where the well had stood. The brass plaque from the well would be mounted on it. The bench would be a place to sit and reflect and remember. The bench was installed in November. The plaque reading, "The well has served its purpose. Wishes came true not through magic but through community. Continue helping each other. Continue making wishes come true for your neighbours. The real magic was always you. Thank you for believing." People visited the bench regularly, some to remember specific wishes, some to reflect on how the community had changed. In December, as the year approached its end, the village prepared for another new year. Would there be another Wishing Well? People asked this frequently. The coordinators, still anonymous, let Reverend Peters address it publicly. The well was a one-time gift, but the spirit of the well, helping each other, making wishes come true, that continues every day. You don't need a well to make wishes or grant them. You just need each other. On New Year's Eve, the village gathered for their annual celebration. At midnight, as the new year arrived, people stood on the green near the memorial bench. Someone started a tradition. Everyone would share one wish aloud. Not for themselves, but for someone else. A wish that they intended to help make come true. Mrs. Singh wished for Mrs. Chen to have a successful year at the grocery. She pledged to shop there more faithfully. Tom wished for the village children to have opportunities to learn new skills. He pledged to teach woodworking. Emma wished for literacy in the community. She pledged expanded programs at the bookshop. One by one, people made wishes for others and pledged to help fulfill them. It was beautiful, spontaneous, exactly what the original well had intended to inspire. Clara stood with the other coordinators, watching this unfold. They hadn't planned this tradition. The community had created it themselves. "We succeeded beyond our hopes," Patricia whispered. "We didn't just grant wishes for 1 month. We changed how people think about wishes, made them active rather than passive. Made them about helping others rather than hoping for yourself," Eleanor added. As the new year began and celebrations continued, Clara thought about the journey from that first morning when she'd discovered the mysterious well. She'd investigated, uncovered the network, joined it, helped facilitate dozens of wishes. She'd seen the community transform, and she'd learned that sometimes the best magic is the kind humans create for each other through simple generosity and coordination. Chapter 5. The Truth Revealed. In late January, nearly a year after the well first appeared, something happened that forced the network into the open. A television production company contacted the village. They wanted to make a documentary about the Wishing Well. We've heard amazing stories, wishes coming true through community support. We'd love to document how it worked and interview the people who made it happen. The coordinators held an emergency meeting. We can't avoid this, Dr. Matthews said. If we refuse to participate, they'll make the documentary anyway, probably with inaccurate speculation. Better to control the narrative by participating. But that means revealing ourselves, Emma said, ending the mystery. Are we ready for that? They debated for hours. Finally, Patricia said something that swayed them. We've been secret for a year. The community has internalized the lessons. People are helping each other independently now. Maybe the mystery has served its purpose. Maybe it's time to show that ordinary people, organized and intentional, can create extraordinary kindness. That might inspire other communities more than mystery would. They agreed. They'd participate in the documentary, reveal the network, explain how it worked, but they'd frame it carefully. Not as a story about 6 clever people, but as a story about community potential, about what neighbours could accomplish together, about systems of kindness. The filming began in February. The documentary crew interviewed all 6 coordinators, dozens of wish recipients, many wish granters. They filmed the memorial bench, the honeyed leaf, the various locations where wishes had been granted. And slowly, the full story emerged. Patricia explained the initial planning. We wanted to demonstrate that community support was possible, that wishes could come true through intentional kindness, rather than luck or magic. Dr. Matthews described the coordination system. We'd read wishes, discuss what was feasible, identify people with relevant skills or resources, and ask them to help. We made it feel spontaneous, but it was actually carefully coordinated. Eleanor talked about matching. The key was knowing the community deeply, knowing not just what people needed, but what people could offer, creating connections between complementary capacities. Emma discussed the emotional aspect. We wanted people to feel the magic of unexpected help, to believe that good things could happen, that hope was justified. The well was theatre, but the kindness was real. Reverend Peters addressed the ethics. Some people might think we manipulated the community, but we didn't force anyone to help. We just facilitated. Everyone who granted a wish did so willingly, genuinely wanting to help. Clara explained her role. I listened. At the honeyed leaf, people share their lives over tea. I'd hear about needs and resources and pass that information to the coordinators. I was the community's listening ear. The documentary also interviewed wish recipients. Tom Fletcher talked about Maisie's wish and the cottage. I don't care that it was organised behind the scenes. My family was helped. My granddaughter's faith in goodness was validated. That's what
Jenny
matters.
Carter, who'd gotten the bookshop job, said, "Knowing now that people deliberately help me doesn't diminish the gift. If anything, it makes it better. Someone cared enough to arrange help. That's beautiful." Mrs. Singh spoke about the clothes her daughter received. "I thought it was coincidence. Learning it was coordination. That means someone was paying attention. Someone noticed our need. I'm not upset. I'm grateful." The documentary also interviewed wish granters. Mrs. Wilson, who'd arranged the guitar scholarship, said, "I thought I was just helping one child. Learning I was part of a larger system of kindness. That's exciting. I want to keep being part of it." Emma from the bookshop. "When I sent that gallery invitation, I thought I was doing a friend a favour. Now I know I was part of something bigger. That doesn't change what I did, but it makes me want to do more." The documentary makers asked the hard question, did you manipulate people? Play God with the community? Patricia answered thoughtfully, "We facilitated. We didn't control. Every person who helped chose to help. Every person who received help needed it. We just created better efficiency in connecting needs and resources. Is that manipulation, or is that community organisation? Think about it differently. Without us, Mrs. Wilson might never have known about the child needing guitar lessons. The child would have gone without. With us, they were connected and both benefited. We didn't create false needs or false resources. We just matched real ones better." The documentary, titled The New Year's Network, When Community Becomes Magic, aired in April. Response was mixed. Some people loved it, calling it inspiring and suggesting every community should have such a network. Others criticised it, saying the coordinators had been manipulative and paternalistic. The coordinators expected both reactions. What they didn't expect was the overwhelming interest from other communities. Within weeks, hundreds of villages, towns, and neighbourhoods contacted them. How do we start our own network? How do we coordinate community support? Can you share your systems? Patricia, somewhat overwhelmed, created a simple guide. Know your community deeply. Identify needs and resources. Create systems for people to express both. Facilitate connections discreetly. Make helping feel natural. Celebrate generosity. That's it. The rest is just organisation and effort. The guide was shared online and downloaded thousands of times. By summer, dozens of communities had started their own mutual aid networks, inspired by Willowbrook's example. Some kept them secret, others were public from the start. All aimed to facilitate neighbour helping neighbour more intentionally. In Willowbrook itself, the revelation changed things subtly. People now knew about the network. They knew the 6 coordinators. But rather than diminishing respect, it increased it. They did all that work and never took credit, people said. They helped so many people and asked nothing in return. The coordinators were treated as heroes, which made them uncomfortable. "We're not heroes," Patricia kept saying. "We're just organisers. You're all the heroes. You did the actual helping." But the village didn't see it that way. At the summer fair in June, the village council officially recognised the 6 coordinators with a community service award. For demonstrating what neighbours can accomplish together, for organising kindness, for showing that community support is possible and powerful. The coordinators accepted the award, but insisted on sharing it. This award belongs to everyone who granted a wish, everyone who helped a neighbour, everyone who participated in making Willowbrook a more generous place. We're accepting it on behalf of the whole community. The documentary continued to gain attention. By autumn, it had been viewed over 1 million times online. Communities around the world were discussing it, replicating it, adapting it. The concept of organised community kindness was spreading. In October, Patricia received an invitation to speak at a conference on community development. She asked the other coordinators if they'd join her. All 6 travelled to London together and gave a joint presentation on the network. They showed the wishing well concept, explained the coordination system, discussed challenges and successes. The audience was captivated. During questions, someone asked, "Would you do it again? Knowing what you know now, would you still create the secret network?" The coordinators looked at each other. Patricia answered, "Absolutely. The month of mystery was important. It created belief and wonder. But the year of coordination afterward, that's where the real work happened. Both phases mattered. Yes, we'd do it again." In December, as the 2nd anniversary of the well's appearance approached, Willowbrook prepared a celebration. 2 years since the wishing well, they called it. A community gathering to reflect on how the village had changed. People shared stories. Mrs. Singh's daughter spoke about getting the job and how it had changed her life's trajectory. The Fletcher family showed photos of their cottage and talked about the home they'd made there. Mrs. Wilson brought several of her guitar students to perform. The skills exchange programme showcased some of what people had taught and learned. Emma from the bookshop shared statistics. Literacy programme attendance up 300% since the well, volunteering up 200%, informal neighbour assistance up significantly, though that was harder to quantify. The community had measurably changed. During the celebration, someone asked the 6 coordinators, "What's next for the network? What are your goals now?" The coordinators had discussed this. Eleanor answered, "Our goal is to make ourselves obsolete, to have created such a culture of helping that coordination isn't needed anymore. People should connect directly, help spontaneously, without needing facilitators. We're not there yet, but we're working toward it. In the meantime, we'll keep coordinating complex needs. But increasingly, the community handles simple connections themselves. That's progress." As the evening continued, Clara stood back and watched the celebration. 2 years ago, she discovered a mysterious wishing well and started investigating. That investigation had led to joining a secret network, facilitating dozens of wishes and watching a community transform. Now here they were, celebrating not a secret, but a shared accomplishment. The mystery was gone, but the meaning remained. In January, 2 full years after the well's appearance, Clara sat in the honeyed leaf one quiet morning. Mrs. Pembroke came in for tea and sat with her. Quite a journey, hasn't it been? From mysterious well to national documentary to community transformation. It has, Clara agreed. I never imagined when I first saw that well what it would lead to. Do you regret the reveal? Do you miss the mystery? Sometimes. There was something special about the secrecy. But Patricia was right. The mystery served its purpose. Now the transparency serves a different purpose, inspiring other communities, showing that ordinary people can organise extraordinary kindness. They sat in comfortable silence, sipping tea. Then Mrs. Pembroke said something that made Clara smile. I made a wish at the well, you know. That first day, before anyone knew what it would become. I wished for Willowbrook to become more connected, more caring. I didn't know my wish would be granted so completely. What made you wish for that? I'd noticed people drifting apart, everyone busy with their own lives, less community feeling than when I was young. I worried we were becoming just a collection of individuals rather than a true village. The well seemed like a chance to wish for change. Your wish came true more powerfully than most, Clara said. It really did. Sometimes I wonder, did the network grant my wish? Or did my wish inspire the network? Clara thought about this. She didn't know if Mrs. Pembroke's wish had been seen by the coordinators, if it had influenced their thinking. But it was a nice thought, that maybe community wishes for community created community transformation. The weeks passed. January turned to February. The network continued its work, now openly acknowledged but still quietly coordinated. Needs were matched with resources. Neighbours helped neighbours. The system hummed along smoothly. In March, something unexpected happened. Maisie Fletcher, now 10 years old, came to the honeyed leaf with a proposal. Miss Whitmore, I want to start a kids' version of the network, a place where children can share wishes or needs and help each other. Can I do that? Clara was charmed. What a wonderful idea. How would it work? Maisie explained. She created a notebook system like the adult suggestion notebooks. Kids could write wishes, help with homework, someone to play with, sports equipment to borrow. Other kids could offer to help. Adults organised the big network. Kids should have our own too. We can help each other. Clara loved this. Let's talk to the other coordinators. I think they'll support it. The coordinators did support it. Within weeks, Maisie had launched the junior network. With guidance from adult coordinators, children began facilitating connections among themselves. Homework help, play dates, sharing equipment, teaching skills. The next generation learning to organise community kindness. By summer, the junior network was thriving. Children were developing organisational skills, empathy, leadership. They were internalising the lessons the adult well had taught, that wishes can come true through community action, that helping others is rewarding, that everyone has resources to share. Maisie's parents were proud. Tom was delighted. My granddaughter's wish led to our cottage. Now she's helping other kids' wishes come true. The cycle continues. In June, Clara reflected on the 2.5 years since the Wishing Well's appearance. The journey from mystery to revelation to institutionalisation, from secret network to public system to children's adaptation. The original month-long project had grown into something permanent and evolving. The well itself was long gone, but what it had started continued to grow. One evening, Clara sat with all 6 original coordinators at the honeyed leaf. They did this monthly now, a mixture of coordination meeting and friendship gathering. Patricia raised her teacup. A toast. To the wishing well. To wishes coming true. To community. To all of us. They clinked cups together. To wishes, they echoed. You know, Eleanor said thoughtfully. When we planned the well, I thought we were creating something temporary, a January project, but we actually created something permanent. Not the well itself, but the idea behind it. The belief that community can make wishes come true. And the structure to support that belief, Dr. Matthews added. Belief without structure is just hope. Structure without belief is just bureaucracy. We created both. So what's next? Emma asked. We've transformed Willowbrook, inspired other communities, created children's version. What else could we do? They discussed possibilities, training programs for other communities wanting to start networks, a book documenting their methods, a formal non-profit to support mutual aid organising, or perhaps nothing. Perhaps just continuing to facilitate and letting the model spread organically. They decided on the latter. No expansion plans, no formal growth strategy, just continued service to Willowbrook and generous sharing of knowledge with any community that asked. We're not trying to build an empire, Reverend Peters said. We're trying to model kindness. The best way to do that is just to keep doing it authentically, locally. As summer turned to autumn and the 3rd anniversary of the well approached, Willowbrook had fully integrated the network into community life. It was no longer remarkable that neighbours helped each other extensively. It was normal, expected. That was the measure of the network's success. It had become unremarkable, just how Willowbrook functioned. In December, Clara stood at the memorial bench one evening. She touched the brass plaque, reading the familiar words. The well has served its purpose. Wishes came true not through magic, but through community. It had served its purpose, more completely than any of them had imagined. The well had disappeared, but its magic, the magic of neighbours helping neighbours, that remained and grew stronger every day. And Clara, serving tea and facilitating connections at the Honeyed Leaf, carried the memory of that first mysterious morning, when a wishing well appeared on the green and everything changed, when investigation led to understanding, when understanding led to participation, when participation led to transformation. The well was gone, but its legacy lived on in every wish granted, every connection made, every neighbour helped. Thank you for visiting Willowbrook tonight and sharing the story of the New Year's wishes. Sometimes mystery leads to revelation. Sometimes organised kindness looks like magic. Sometimes the best way to make wishes come true is to work together to grant them for each other. May you carry the knowledge that community can accomplish extraordinary things through simple coordination, that helping neighbours creates waves of generosity, that wishes are meant to be active rather than passive, and that the real magic has always been us, choosing to care, choosing to help, choosing to believe in each other. Rest well, dear friend, until we meet again at the Honeyed Leaf. Good night.